Today we will study what is the course of a typical intercostal nerve. You can see this is the picture of the intercostal space with intercostal nerve. The typical intercostal nerve after its origin turns laterally behind the sympathetic trunk. This is the sympathetic trunk. So laterally, this is the lateral side. This is the intercostal nerve. Behind and laterally the sympathetic trunk, the intercostal nerve enters the intercostal space in between the parietal pleura and the posterior intercostal membrane, which is derived from the internal intercostal muscle. Up to this way. Behind the sympathetic trunk and then enters the intercostal space between the parietal pleura and the posterior intercostal membrane. Then it enters the costal groove of the corresponding rib. Costal groove of the corresponding rib to course laterally and forward. To course laterally and forward, and in this position there is the costal groove of the corresponding ribs. Now course laterally forward, in costal groove it comes into the relation with the corresponding intercostal vessels and forms the neurovascular bundle. Along with the intercostal vein, artery and nerve, it forms the neurovascular bundle of the intercostal space. Near the sternal end of the intercostal space, this is the sternal end. In this way, the nerve crosses in front of the internal thoracic artery. The nerve crosses in front of the internal thoracic artery. This is the internal thoracic artery. So, in front of the internal thoracic artery, the nerve passes. Then it pierces the internal intercostal muscle. Then it pierces the internal intercostal muscle. This is the internal intercostal muscle. By piercing it, it comes out. Anterior intercostal membrane also pierces the anterior intercostal membrane, which was derived from the external intercostal muscle. This is the anterior intercostal membrane. And pectoralis major muscle and pectoralis major muscle. To terminate as the anterior cutaneous nerve. This is the anterior cutaneous nerve. Now let us revise quickly. The typical intercostal nerve passes after its origination from the posterior rami of the spinal cord, passes laterally and backward the sympathetic trunk, then enters into the intercostal space of the same number between the parietal pleura and the posterior intercostal membrane. Now it continues forward in the costal groove of the corresponding ribs and form the neurovascular bundle. It comes to the anterior part. It passes in front of the internal thoracic artery, then pierces the internal intercostal muscle, anterior intercostal lamina and the pectoralis major muscle, and terminate as the anterior cutaneous branch. Thank you.